Hey there, thanks for joining me for Broadband Deployment News. The Benton Institute for Broadband has introduced or released a new map, an ACP performance map that shows you by zip code how many people are eligible for the ACP and how many have signed up. So we'll take a look at that. And then also, the FCC has released a new landing page for the ACP today. Be right back and we'll look at both. Hey, thanks for joining me. Rick Uzzi here with Broadband Deployment News. So before I start on the ACP stuff, I wanted to quickly just report this as some news that not really necessarily breaking today. You see it's posted May 3rd, but I talked about this a couple of weeks ago that Colorado was looking at this law because Colorado had some things in place that was making it more difficult for municipalities to deploy broadband on their own or even to partner with others that wanted to deploy broadband, like doing a private-public partnership for broadband. So, and that was just something where residents had to vote. So they had to put it up for a vote. So they had to go through all of the expense and process of having residents vote to whether or not they thought their municipality could provide broadband. And that has now been rolled back with this new law. And it's interesting because it was not really the law that was in place. Municipalities were just deciding to just go around it because they were holding their own elections, and over 100 had elections where the citizens said, yeah, we want broadband. So it made perfect sense to get rid of it for that reason, if not for the fact that they really shouldn't have been blocking it. I see here Senate Bill 23-183 removes what the Governor's Office of Information Technology calls the biggest barrier to providing state residents with broadband by making it easier to use federal funds for capital projects and digital adoption programs. SB 05-152, a law created in 2005, prohibited use of municipal or county money for infrastructure to improve local broadband service without obtaining voter approval to opt in. In other words, local governments had to obtain voter approval to be involved in deploying broadband services. So revision signed into law this week removes that obstacle by allowing local governments to provide broadband service on their own or in partnership with service providers without holding a local election. So that is now struck down. So that will make it easier now for other municipalities in the state that want to look into their own broadband service. They don't have to worry about, if they decide they want to do it or consider it, they don't have to put it up for a vote. So back to ACP. So this was in State Scoop. So you see here, new tracker shows enrollment in affordable connectivity program. The ACP, that's the program that was part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It was actually, in a way, almost an extension of the emergency broadband benefit that came out through some of the coronavirus legislation that was out prior. Although that was aimed at people that were impacted specifically by the pandemic, the ACP is meant for low-income households, not really related to the pandemic. But it's $14 plus billion program that provides a $30 subsidy to households that meet the qualifications for it. Or if you're on tribal lands, you can get $75. Plus, there's $100. You can get a $100 subsidy towards equipment with certain stipulations. Most internet service providers are actually providing the ACP. Not everybody's doing the $100 equipment where you can get maybe a laptop or a tablet, that subsidy in there, but most are doing the ACP. The issue that we have is we don't know how much longer it's going to be funded because, again, it was a little over $14 billion. There are now 17 million signed up. It's been in place for quite a while, so we're thinking that sometime in 2024 that the money's going to be gone. But Benton Institute has put out this map. You see here for broadband, the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society launched a mapping tool on Tuesday, enabling users to see how many people are signed up for the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program where they live. The ACP Performance Tool is designed to be a resource for communities to see how their ACP signups are going, the Benton Institute said in a press release. The tool provides data on how many households have signed up for ACP, as well as the number of households that are expected to enroll based on eligibility estimates. So they're estimating based on the particular community and poverty and other kinds of programs, how many people could sign up for it. By calculating the difference between predicted and actual enrollment, the map allows communities to see how they are performing on ACP signups compared to other areas, a measure the Benton Institute calls ACP performance. According to the Benton Institute, less than a third of eligible households are currently participating in the program, highlighting the need for increased communication and outreach efforts. Now, actually, recently, I think it might have been the FCC or somebody came out and said that over a third, so about 33%, over 33% now, or maybe it was just a third, are now that are eligible have now signed up. So a third of the households that are eligible have signed up. So this says less than a third, but it's really, if it's not a third, it's very, very close. It's one way or the other. While the FCC has recently stepped up its efforts to fund community organizations that lead ACP outreach enrollment efforts, the future of the program is not assured beyond 2024. Again, that's because it would need to be funded again through some mechanism, whether that's Congress again doing a short-term allotment of maybe another $14 billion. And if they do that, by the way, if they do another $14 billion, it will last less than 2 years because of the number of people that are signed up at this point. So there's that, there's other ways that they could seek to fund that. But let's take a look at the map. So you see here, actually this is, I was just going to show you this, and I've linked to these things in the description of the video so you can find them. So this is the blog post about the performance tool. So you can read about that. They talk a little bit about the statistical model, the factors, individual factors, community influences. They talk about the different, and we'll see this on the map, they talk about the different levels of performance, highest meaning that enrollments are exceeding by the most amount the expected enrollment, and lowest where actual enrollments are worst as far as below expectations, ones by 40% or less. So you can read through that. This is the map, and there's links in a couple of different places, but again, I linked to the map as well in the in there. Actually, I was looking at the spot right now, so I'm going to go ahead and go back and just go back to the beginning of the map. I was just looking at some locations. So this is, well, I'm actually going to go back here. Let me just go, I'm going to delete the zip codes that I was looking at and just pull it up. So this is what you get when you pull it up, and you see your control. You can use control to scroll and zoom because I'm using my little wheel mouse, my wheel on my mouse here. So I can scroll in like this, or you can type in a zip code. So I scrolled in. I always like to look at my areas, you know, like in the North Atlanta area, just see what's going on. So as I scroll in, you see the different colors. Down here on the legend, you see highest performers are the darkest green, high performers a little lighter. Then you've got your shades of purple here, with the darkest purple being the lowest performers. And then you got average actually being gray. So again, as I scroll in, control, here we go. So if I look at, you know, this is the city of Atlanta is here within in the perimeter, so in this area. So you can see a lot of it is performing, looks like low performance or lowest performance in these purple areas. You've got some green in here, this area of northern Atlanta. I'll go ahead and click on that. Where is this? This is, and then you get, when you do that, when you click, this is 30327. Not sure exactly where that is. If I scroll in here, I'll be able to see probably some towns. Maybe, let's see what we got. So it's hard to see with the colors. Chastain Park. Yeah, so this is like Sandy Springs area. We've got Chastain Park here. Chastain Park is in the, this is a fairly affluent area, actually, Chastain Park, if I remember, just some of these areas. So this is lowest. So if we look at that, we see total number of households, about 14, almost 14.5 there. Eligible households, 3,218. So they're predicting enrollment of around 549, and they're only at 278. So again, this is a more affluent area, I believe, in the Atlanta area. They show you how many households have wireline broadband. In this case, 86%. Households with cellular data, 9%. Households without a computer, 2%. So most households have computers. Households with annual income under 15,000, 4%. Then they show rent burdened, and they show population over 65, which that could be significant. If, you know, a lot of times older folks, less disposable income, of course, sometimes less interest in using the internet, depending on their age. And then you've got foreign born, 17%. They have those statistics on all of these as well. Now, we look at $15,000. They're showing the annual income under $15,000. That's about, I think that's the, I can't remember if that's the poverty level for, I was going to pull up the poverty levels here. Oh, actually, it's on the, yeah, poverty level for somebody that's single, I believe, in a household is just under $15,000. That would be one person. as you get up, with two people, it's closer to $30,000 you might expect. And then I think a family of four, like 60,000. So a family of four, and anybody, by the way, and you'll see when we look at this, there's certain, we'll see what makes someone eligible for the ACP here in a minute. So again, this is that area of Atlanta. And you can go, if I scroll back out again here and I look at somewhere more rural, let's say in South Georgia, there's Florida. Let's just look down here in South Georgia and zoom in on, maybe on this area. So here we've got several that are medium, this gray looking area. Total number of households, 2,591, eligible 1,428. So you can see a higher percentage is eligible down here. You've got 29% that have wireline broadband, so smaller there. Households with cellular data, a larger number there, 20%, I think larger than the other if I remember. Households without a computer, 27% compared to 2% in the other place we're looking. Households with an annual income under 15,000, that's 16%. We got the rent burden again, population over 65. I think that was a higher number. That's a higher number here, 21%. And then foreign-born, 2%. That's actually a lower number than we saw in that area closer into Atlanta, as you might expect. So that's, somewhere there in Georgia. Now I looked up some zip codes, and again, you can search by zip code. We can click and see what it is, but I can enter a zip code here. I searched for a few that were the 10, I think the 10 poorest in the United States. First one was, the 10th was 44. This is going to mess up my my screen here if I type this in. I can tell. Watch, hang on 1 second. No, maybe it won't over here. So let's see, 44115. Yeah, it didn't on that keyboard. Okay, here we go. There we are. So this is actually Cleveland, and if you look at it, there's a college right there. Well, here it is. So it's Cleveland State University. So these are going to be college students. So they don't have a lot of disposable income, and so this is an interesting situation. It's the 10th. It's showing as the 10th poorest as well, and one of the lower performers as far as ACP goes. Because again, this color here, where am I? Whoop. There we go. This color here, I think that's the lowest performance right there. So as we look at the numbers on that, again, it's lowest, maybe not the lowest. Households, 4,494. Most of those, almost all of those being eligible for the ACP. So that's why they'd be performing low. Because we see predicted was 2,109, and they've got 1,739 signed up. So a good number are signed up. It's just lower than what the Benton Institute felt. And I don't know exactly how they came up with that. What they felt should be expected. Then percent of households with wireline broadband is about 50%. Households with cellular, 16%. Without a computer, 14%. Again, these are college students. So I don't know if they're counting laptops or tablets or what. Households with annual income under 15,000, 44%. Again, college students. Quite often living alone, maybe living on campus, maybe don't have a job, maybe their parents are paying for their college. We don't know what the story is here. Population 65 and over, small, 4% again, and foreign-born 10% in this area. So that was that one. And then we had, I was going to look for the sixth most low-income zip code in the United States. Sorry about that. So I can't pull it up, but without changing the hotkeys, which I'm not going to do right at this minute. But this was actually Chattanooga, Tennessee. And when you looked at it, it was actually showing fairly high performance in some ways. And Chattanooga is one of the most connected cities there is, because they came out really early on with municipal broadband, and they've got really blazingly fast fiber now. I think I was reading where they were doing I think 10 gig now, and you could do even higher. And they actually have programs there where if your children, for example, are on certain programs like meals, like school lunch programs, those kinds of things, where this Chattanooga, the city, will actually provide the internet. So you wouldn't necessarily need the ACP, and you get the fast Chattanooga internet. So that was one. And then the last one is Erie. This was the most low income, and I think my keyboard will work on this one. I don't think this is going to interrupt anything here. Let's see, 1,6. 501. 6501. Here we go. Do that. Yeah, this is Erie, Pennsylvania. And actually the zip code, it said no result on this when I looked it up, as you can see here, but I can click all around here in the Erie and I can see that these are all green. So even though this is the zip code that has the most poverty in the United States, it tends to be older people. I think we'll see that in here. 17% there, but I guess it depends on where you are in here. But you can see that, you've got a good number of households that are signed up here. So total households, 7654, eligible 2316, predicted versus actual, you see 501 versus 1091. So they actually have more people signed up than expected. So they're making good use of the ACP here. You can see population 65 plus, 25% here in this particular zip code. I don't know what is that? That's 16505 versus 16501, which doesn't show up. So that's Erie. So again, there's links to the article, the blog post, and this map that you can find there. I also was going to show this. So this just came out today. So you see here, FCC, Wireline Competition Bureau announces new affordable connectivity program application landing page at getinternet.gov. A new affordable connectivity program application landing page, consumer-friendly site, now accessible through a simple and memorable URL, getinternet.gov. Explains the benefits of the program, serves as a call to action for eligible consumers to apply, and enables consumers to easily apply for the program. The FCC continues its robust efforts to promote the ACP by providing grants to community partners, offering additional support for navigators who help eligible consumers enroll, and developing paid and earned media strategies to increase public awareness. So part of that $14+ billion is going to grants. And that's not just going to fund the ACP, but it's going to grants for certain organizations to actually promote the ACP in their community, certain organizations or people to become navigators to help people sign up. So they're doing everything they can, advertising this, trying to get others to help promote it. And it's, in my opinion, it's been very successful. There's 17 million signed up for this. Now they say, that's only a third of the people that are eligible, but we need to look at who's eligible here in a minute and determine, do they really need it? Because I think that's part of the problem. One of the reasons we're running out of money is because there's a lot of eligible people. And if we try to get everybody signed up who is eligible, we're not going to have enough money to ever support this thing. As part of this work, the FCC recently made enhancements to its online consumer application system to make it easier for eligible consumers to apply by providing clear instructions and decreasing the number of steps in the application process while continuing to protect against waste, fraud, and abuse in the program. So that's one of the critiques I've heard, is that maybe it was hard to sign up. Very difficult. That's one of the reasons they needed navigators, was maybe to walk people through that. You see here, the ACP is now reaching over 17 million households. So the getinternet.gov site, that is this site here. So you can see that's a nice, very pleasing layout. It is looked a little bit easier than the last one that I recall. It's basically 2 steps. How do I sign up, apply? Now, of course, there's things you have to do to apply. You've got to answer questions, those kinds of things. And then there's Get Internet. You can contact an internet company. And I didn't click on this earlier, and I don't really want to do right now, but it'll bring you a list of internet companies that provide the ACP. So you just need to make sure that there's an ISP in your area. And there's generally, if you've got more than one ISP, there's a good chance both of them will offer the ACP. So you might have a choice there as far as which way to go. Because you don't have to limit yourself to the $30 subsidy. You can get a higher speed plan, and this will give you $30 towards that. Let's say you have 2 operators, and one is charging $80 a month for 500 megs, and another one's charging $60 a month for a gig. You might want to go with the gig one, and you can actually get $30 towards that $60 and pay $30 a month for a gig internet. Or if they have a low cost plan, maybe it's $30 for 100 by 100, then you can get your internet for free. So it's up to you what you order if you're going to be on the ACP. So you can see here there's different frequently asked questions. How can I get help? What if I can't apply? How does a device benefit work? So there's different information here. And then I wanted to look at this. So how can I qualify? And this is kind of what I think is part of the crux of the problem, because as we said, there's what we say there's 17 million signed up, and they've said that the eligible number of households are 52 million. So out of 52 million that are eligible, again, 17 million are signed up. That's where it's that 33% figure I think was coming from. Now, there are only 125 million households in the United States, so that means about 41% of the households, they're saying, in the United States are eligible for the ACP. So that's approaching 1 out of every 2 households, which means literally you would almost have one household paying for the internet for another household, because it's getting close at 41%. And once it gets to 50%, that's what that means. That means one household is paying for the internet for another household, either through taxes or through a subsidy or through some kind of USF fee on the bill. So I question as to whether that's the right number. And when you look at how people qualify, you keep throwing different qualifications in here. That's, I think, where that comes from. So if you look at the income here, you can qualify based on income. So a household of one person, if they are making 29,160, I guess, or less. And then you've got some higher numbers here in Alaska or Hawaii, which would be more expensive to live there, and then a lot of times more expensive to get internet as well. So you got 29,160 for a one-person household. So again, if you got a college student that's living in an apartment, and they would qualify most likely for that. You've got what do we have here? So this is 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. It says so. Again, four people in a household, $60,000. If the household income is $60,000 or less, they would qualify for the ACP. And you can see how the numbers go here. And then there are other programs. So if anybody is on any of these programs, and you can see here they kind of summarize it based on your household income, which we just looked at, or if your child or dependent participate in certain government assistance programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, or other programs. And if you or anyone in your household already receives a Lifeline benefit, the Lifeline benefit would be for phone service, for example. But you can see the other programs here. So you got Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP thing, Medicaid, Special Supplemental Nutrition for Women, Infants, and Children, Supplemental Security Income, Federal Public Housing, any of those projects, Veterans Pension and Survivor Benefits, free and reduced price school lunch programs. So if any child in the household participates in that, then the whole household is eligible, or received a federal Pell Grant in the current year. And then there's certain tribal assistance programs. And again, it mentions the Lifeline here, or again, qualify through your child or dependent. So again, I think, So again, what we are seeing there is a lot of households can go ahead and qualify for this benefit. And that being the case, then really the money's not going to last that long. So we need to consider how we're doing as far as allocating those funds. If we want to make sure that the funds go to those that need it the most. And if we wind up giving out funds to people that maybe can afford broadband, or because they're obviously getting assistance other ways. So if they can afford broadband, it would be better that with those that really cannot afford broadband, that we put the money that way, because there's only so much money to go around. Like I said, we're getting to a point where it's going to be literally 50% of the households in the United States would be getting free broadband, and that would have to be supported by the other 50% of the country. So that's the first thing I think that needs to be looked at as they look at how they're going to fund the ACP in the future. And then we do that through tax dollars, which is a difficult thing to do when you've got inflation the way we have and the debt that we have right now. Because if you're watching the news, there's this whole rigmarole about having to raise the debt limit, which means we are exceeding our credit. We've got our credit card, and the credit card company has told us, hey, you've reached your max limit. So what the government can do is just say, okay, we're going to give ourselves more money. And unfortunately, if they don't raise the debt limit, then what the country has to start doing is cutting programs like even Social Security and other kinds of programs. They can only pay towards debt service if the debt limit is not raised. And if we're only paying towards the debt service, then other programs get cut. And that shows you how much debt we have when we have to pay just to pay all of the interest on our debt. We can't pay anything else. That's because the debt that we have, the debt service that we have, actually exceeds our GDP. That's how badly in debt we are as a country. So taxes is not the best way to do it. I think the best way would be to do it would be through the USF and putting something on the bill of those that can afford broadband. But again, if you wind up doing that where every other person has to pay, one person has to pay for another person's broadband, then that fee on somebody's broadband bill is going to be almost the same as them completely paying for one other person for broadband. So we need to look at how that is all financed. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. If this was helpful, if you give me a like on the video, I would appreciate that. And if you are not subscribed, click the subscribe button. Click the little bell to be notified, and you'll receive a notification when I'm live. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time for Broadband Deployment News. Bye-bye.